So we are going to start the Vietnam War, sometimes also known as the Vietnam conflict. This is one of my favorite units, so I'll do my best to keep it interesting and exciting for you as we do it in this format. So, to give you a little background of how the US gets involved, you are all aware that the Cold War had been going on, democracy versus communism. So at the end of World War II, from like 1945 until 1954, the Vietnamese had waged, kind of think of it like an anti-colonial war against France, because France had controlled Vietnam. And the US had given Vietnam financial aid to help them get their freedom. They gave them about $2.6 billion worth of support. So in 1954, after controlling Vietnam, France is going to be forced to leave. And they signed something called the Geneva Peace Accords, where what was known as French Indochina, now Vietnam, is going to decide what are we going to do now that France has left. And so it's going to divide French Indochina into three nations. Vietnam, here you can see it's the gold and the green. Laos, which is like by North Vietnam, and then Cambodia. Now, it wasn't that simple because people in Vietnam, some wanted to be democratic, some wanted to be communist. So it's the Cold War. So the plan was in 1956, 2 years later, there's going to be an election in North Vietnam and South Vietnam to unify these two into one unified country again, one Vietnam. But for the time being, the division is going to be at the 17th parallel, so 17 degrees latitude. And so it's just going to be like a temporary 2 year separation where the North is kind of pro-communist, so that's where communism is going to be, and the South is going to be the democracy. Now, the US, we weren't crazy about the Geneva Accords because we didn't want any communism to exist, but it is what it is. So, 1954, Vietnam gets its freedom from France, but they can't agree whether to be communist or democratic, so they're going to wait a couple years, 2 years, have an election, and see what happens.